Family, grace and peace. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Vicky Show, to my new channel here at VickyDillard.tv directly, or you can reach us at Vicky Dillard TV on YouTube. You all know that I like to chop up our videos and put them on other platforms over the next a week or so of this amazing interview. We're so privileged to have the living icon and legend with us again today, the great Dr. Anderson, family. Just before we bring him on, family, for those of you that are tuning in, I want you to hit that thumbs up button. And I want you to share this amazing broadcast today. Our living legend, Dr. Anderson, is going to talk to us about true political power, how we leverage political power, with an emphasis today on the judiciary, family. You do not want to miss this. So on the count of three, for those of you that have it, I want you to hit that thumbs up button, beloved, and share the broadcast. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Well, family, thank you for sharing. Welcome. I see you all piling on in the chat. Everybody, would you put your hands together and welcome our dear vanguard as it relates to economic, yes, Black liberation, economically, politically, and otherwise, the great Dr. Claud Anderson.
Oh, thank you very much. I guess I'm gonna have to put you on the payroll and take you around the country with me. If I can get those kind of accolades before I go on the air any place in the United States or in Europe or Caribbean, I'm taking you with me, and I'm gonna bear the expense for it, because you can't beat a better introduction than what you just gave me.
Oh, that was the easy part. I'm telling you, we don't take it lightly. Your extraordinary contribution and wisdom that the divine has brought to us in our people. Dr. Anderson, family, I want everybody, I'm saying this early before we get into the topic, because he told me through his beautiful wife days ago, tell them to bring their pen and pads. So Dr. Anderson, I told him when I posted the other day, I said, have your pen and pads, because he's going to drop some political game for us. So family, we're going to not prolong the time. We won't be here too long. So take what he gives us. But I want everybody to put in the chat, Powernomics. I'm saying this right now, because before we leave, I want everybody to make donations. I want everybody to buy books, his 5 books by the dozens at powernomics.com. It's displayed right here on the screen with his name, POWERNOMICS.com. I heard that several of you reached out. I heard through his team that they got an extraordinary response last time. So we want to keep that same energy, and thank you so much. Dr. Anderson, welcome. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I feel good whenever you're on the other end of the speaking mic, okay?
Yes.
And I'm glad to be back with you. But first of all, let me express my profound gratitude for, we did get another letter from you, and lo and behold, there was a check from you. That's the second one we've gotten. And but we might have to start saying pull back from you, because we don't want you to be giving for 47 million Black folk in America that's not giving anything. And we've been doing this for 50 years. And they always say, we can't give anything to the Black folk. We gotta take care of our own people, that like the NAACP and Urban League and people in those groups that are concerned about all people. So whenever we make a contribution, it must go to all people. And that's one of the biggest lies ever told. You're supposed to be taking care of your own people first. That's the first thing you do. Then take care of your own community, and cease and desist. No other group comes into to prominence or into political position talking about, we're going to take care of everybody. No, you take care of your own. That's why you swear an oath, saying, I hereby swear to take care of my own people, make sure they're taken care of, that they have food, clothing, and protection, and sanitary conditions, and an education situation. They can be a competitive people in this nation. I swear that. But as soon as they get into office, I'm here for everybody. I'm here for the midgets, the pigeon-toed, the one-legged, the one-eyed, the humpbacks, the midgets, and everybody else. You start taking care of your own damn people.
Woo! Dr. Anderson came in with guns blazing and setting everything on fire, y'all. He ain't waiting. We feel you. Yes, sir. Everybody share this broadcast. Instagram, I'm here live on my new channel at Vicky Dillard TV on YouTube. That's Vicky Dillard TV on YouTube or VickyDillard.tv. Instagram, come on over now. Join us. We're here again. I'm so honored to have another live interview with the great living icon, Dr. Claud Anderson. He's getting ready to drop major game on the judiciary, and we're going to talk about practical steps for political power. You don't want to miss it. Come over now to VickyDillard.tv. Dr. Anderson, it is my privilege, and no, I'm not going to stop pulling back on the funds from my business, because this is one of the reasons I want to grow my business, because my goal is to fund Black liberation movements, people, and projects and organizations just like yours. And I'm simply going to encourage others to do the same. So, Dr. Anderson, we're not about to stop that. So it's an honor to do that. And it's our privilege to come together and to practice group economics, just as you've taught us. Today, you specifically wanted to talk about the judiciary and political power. And I received a little bit ago a chart from your lovely wife, and I want to get ready to display it over my phone. We had some tech issues, family. My team was trying to put it up, but we'll get it fixed next time, inshallah. But I want to use my phone to display this chart and talk to us about what this chart is about, Dr. Anderson, as I get ready to display it.
Well, that I'll be delighted to do. As a matter of fact, I have an urgency in my voice because I've been trying now for 50 years to tell Black folk that we were in deep trouble. And as I indicated way back in about 1970, that Black people are coming up into major problems because of the attitude of this country towards immigrants coming into the country versus Black folk, what I call native Black Americans that have been here all these years and nobody cares about them and does anything for them. And so right now, I want to talk about the importance of understanding the national construct that keeps Black folk locked into the bottom in this country. You ain't got a snowball's chance right now, Vicky, because I'm telling you honestly, you have not, as a race, symbolic of a race, had a snowball's chance. Everything is locked and boxed. And in that chart you put up there right now, if you look over in the left-hand corner of that chart, you see only about 3 little numbers over there?
Yeah.
At that point in time, the emphasis in this country was strictly focusing on Black people, white, and the Indians were listed as number 3, but Indians didn't count because they were not citizens. They were independent in this country. And as you go across the top of that thing, you see how every year, every 10 years, they keep expanding those groups that they classify as immigrants, that they classify as minorities. It keeps spreading, and by 10 years, in the first 10-year census, what they said, well, we got 2 minorities in the country. That's Blacks and poor whites. But by the second chart, they started adding Hispanics and Chinese. And that was by 1870 because the Civil War had been going on now. When the Civil War broke out in this country, let me be very specific with you. There were about 4,000 Hispanics in the United States, period. And those Hispanics were people who were directly here from Spain. And they sort of given land rights. But that was it. There were no Chinese in the country. Chinese began to pour in here after the Civil War had begun. They came in and got paid. They were hired labor. They got paid. They were working on the railroads with the Blacks, but they got paid and were able to get land and able to start businesses and got paid. But now today, if you look up at Yale University and Harvard, they're demanding to be made equal to Black folk. But Black folk didn't get paid anything and were beaten and castrated and lynched for not working harder on railroads. That's why when the Chinese came in. Hispanics, who had about 4,000 Hispanics in the United States, they started putting them in and calling them minorities. And as you go across that sheet, I'm not going to label all of them. As we go across that sheet, They keep expanding the groups now that anything, everybody, gays and midgets, humpbacks, anybody, one-eyed people, people with peg legs, people now on Social Security, white people now classified as socially disadvantaged so they can be equal to black folk. And now white students can go over to the United Negro College Fund and get grants, free education grants from a black funding corporation that blacks can't get. If blacks go to most of these big corporations now, they won't give anything to blacks, saying that's preferential treatment. But whites can now leave in this country, leave the white universities, go over to black universities and ask for, I need $150,000, $200,000 to go. I want to go to a black school and get free education, and blacks can't get it. Now the problem is this: they don't do that with the Indians on that first category. Indians right now get money for special money to go to college, but nobody can go to an Indian college and a university and get free education because the Indians won't let that go down. They're against it.
Yes, sir.
But anybody can go take money out from black folk. Now let's go back real fast. I'm gonna run through a lot of history with you right now, and try to keep up with me. Tell your listeners to follow me. This is extremely important. Now, where did all this stuff come from? One thing that we're gonna have to start focusing on this country. This is what I want every one of your listeners start to doing as of today. Okay. We're gonna start fighting a battle, and I'm planning on winning with black folk. Okay, it's all started back in 1789. In 1789, when they drew up the Constitution, they didn't. But what I'm getting ready to tell you, no schools would teach this because white folks say that's critical racism. For you to start talking to us about what we did 200 years ago, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about. Now, in 1789, they drafted the Constitution, and the Constitution again set up two groups, and that was whites and blacks. Okay, now at that point in time, that was pretty well understood that you have, and out of those two groups, there'll be one minority, and that'll be blacks, what I call native blacks. I don't call them Afro-Americans. They're not Africans. They were born in this country. 99% of all the blacks in America were born in this country. They are natives in this country. They're not from Africa. They don't get any Christmas cards or letters from Africa. They don't know any African languages. They don't have any African names. They don't get anything. They don't own anything in Africa. So native blacks is a key. Now, in 1789, they built the Constitution. They said we're going to have black folk as a subclass, as a lower class people in this country. And now who's saying this is what white folk call the founders of the country. The founders mean people like George Washington. Okay, George Washington and you got George Mason, and you got Alexander Hamilton, and all these people are wealthy people. So if you look at the Constitution, you find they came here for what? To start a democracy. But what was the purpose of this democracy? Was to make profit. And all these whites borrowed money from all the banks in Europe. They come here and start a democracy in America. Period. Okay. Yes, so they came here. And they said, now the first thing we're going to do once we get here is that we're going to make sure that all the wealth is in the land. Okay. And so they said, we're going to get so much land because we are founders. And so George Washington says, give me 100,000 acres of free land. And so they gave him 100,000 acres of free land. Then Thomas Jefferson said, if you're going to give George 100,000 acres of free land, I want 100,000 free acres of land. So they gave him 100,000 acres of free land. Then Patrick Henry, that all our black kids get exposed to in early educational schools settings in America, was that then Benjamin Franklin says, I want about 50,000 acres of free land. And then following him comes one that says, give me liberty and give me death, but also give me 55,000 acres of free land. So to make a long story short, this country then took and gave to those founding fathers 24 million acres of free land right off the bat. And, so, and they said, and the wealth in this nation is going to be in the land. And that's why all through history, Black folk couldn't get 1 acre, not 1 acre of free land. Talking about, I want 40 acres of free land. They said, we're not going to give you 1 acre of free land, not alone 40 acres. And so they gave whites coming to America then. They told them all, said, send your weak, your poor whites over here to America to freeload. Send them over here to get profits.
Okay.
That's what I want the whites coming from Europe to get. And see, but blacks never make this point to whites like Connolly in the Congress and all these racist whites in the Congress. You should tell them to look. You all came here with nothing. You were given over 2 billion, billion, 2 billion acres of free land to every white coming in got 650 acres of free land. And that land was free to them. They didn't buy it. So you go down south now and see all that land out west and all down south, those big farms and plantations. Whites didn't come here and buy no plantations. They came in and got free land. But then Thomas, General Jackson, when Labor became president, Andrew Jackson, says, well, but land doesn't have that much value, only 10% value. A real value comes from owning the back of a slave. So we got to make sure y'all got some free labor. So they then said that all blacks must work for nothing. You get nothing, you get no land, and you don't get paid. And so consequently, they came in and brought in almost somewhere between 8 and 12 million black folk to work for whom? To work for all those poor whites coming from Europe, looking for free land. Okay, and that's where whites got their wealth from. And what did they pick up? Whites then on that land, that's the point of slavery. Slavery came into existence then, and then whites got 100% of all the wealth in this nation. They got 100% of all the land at that point. They then got 100% of all the minerals in the land, the bauxite, the chrome, the gold, the silver, and the oil, and the water, forestry, wood, everything. They got 100% of everything. Okay?
Yes,
and then
sir.
The blacks got nothing.
Nothing.
And once that was over, and so what they said is, now, how do we keep all this? They said we keep it by making sure that only people can come into the country and sharing this profit, sharing this wealth that we are getting free off of blacks' work, is that let's see how we're going to do it. Okay, let's pass a law. So the next year after the Constitution was built, a form rather, they passed a law. Congress passed a law, said this is a white nation. They said this is a white nation only for whites to get benefits out of. Blacks get nothing. That was the first Congress, first law was to say all the benefits in this nation go strictly to whites, nothing to blacks.
You are connecting these dots, Dr. Anderson. I don't even want to interrupt except to say, everybody keep sharing, thumbs up, thumbs up. Family, make sure that you donate when this is over at powernomics.com. It's displayed under his name. Send checks, buy books, and let's get to work, family. Dr. Anderson, keep going. You're making this make so much sense.
Okay, so the first law said would be only for white citizens, that you must have the appearance of being whites or be marked as whites or accepted as whites. That's the only way you can get free benefits in this country. And they said nobody else can get any, but just white folk. And so that was the first law passed in this country. Now, after they set that up, they said, now what are we going to do next? Now we know who's going to get the benefits. We know who's invited into the country. So they set up something called the United States Supreme Court. And so they set up the Supreme Court. And they said, we're going to pick 6 whites to make up the United States Supreme Court. And guess what? Those first people on the United States Supreme Court were whites. Not only were they whites, they were racist, and they were slave owners.
Come on.
So the first 6 people put on the United States Supreme Court were white slave owners.
Okay.
Okay, and they made all these decisions about black folk, talking about we're the Supreme Court for justice. Yeah, just us. That's being put into slavery. That's what they made of.
Come on now.
And so they said our primary responsibility as a United States Supreme Court. This is very important. Now, I just gave you the first important point, is that we got to start addressing the role of the Constitution. The Constitution must be rewritten. Black folk must hit the streets and demand that the United States Constitution be rewritten based on the original intent, and alternate, right, and then say we're changing that intent, not just to enrich whites and give them everything, but now we must do something for black folk. So the second point is that the United States set up the Supreme Court for what? To be the guardian of racism in America. The United States Supreme Court was to say, we are now, as our responsibility, nothing changes for black folk between blacks and whites. It must always stay the same. And the Supreme Court is the worst thing to happen in America for black folk. And they started off with 6 of them. Then later on they expanded it to 9. Okay, then they expanded to 9 on it, and that's why in all these years since the founding of the country, they have appointed something like about 100, almost 130 people to the United States Supreme Court. And guess what? All but one was white. And they just appointed one black woman recently, and she's married to a white man. So you got to watch what that's saying. And just like Clarence Thomas is nothing but a white man passing for black. So and he has never done anything for black folk. So basically, you have a Supreme Court talking about this is the law of the land, and this is the final decision on justice. That's the worst thing you can do, is put slave owners in charge of what constitutes justice in America. And that's how you got the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court had authority that they could appoint some lower case judges called local federal judges. Okay. And that's now when Obama went in there, Obama did not appoint not one to the Supreme Court and not one to the federal courts that was black. He appointed nothing but whites. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now up until 1948, this is very important. Now, this is another point, that out of almost 1,600 federal judges in America, guess what? All 1,600, all the way up to 1948, were whites. Okay. Very important. Remember these things. Now, that's what you're going to start addressing. Forget this stuff about Black Lives Matter. It don't matter. I'm telling you what matters. They put 1,600 whites in there, not one black. In 1948, they appointed the first black as a federal judge. In 1948, not way back in 1789, but in 1948. Now, when I went in with President Carter, let me show you the importance of this. They only had one black at that time as a federal judge. I cut a deal with again with one of the biggest white racists in the court system. I mean, in the Republican Party, and you know who that was? That was from South Carolina. He was the one who had impregnated a couple of black women down there and had black babies. And who was that? Can you remember what that one was?
You said the president?
No, he was a senator from South Carolina. He was on the Judiciary Committee for the Republican Party. And so I went in there with the White House with President Carter in 1976. Guess what? They still only had one black that was a federal judge out of over 1,600. And they had one they were considering to make the second one.
They're putting Strom Thurmond in the chat.
Huh?
They're putting Strom Thurmond in the chat.
Okay. So Strom Thurmond, guess what? he was a secretary for it. He wanted something out of me as Assistant Secretary in Commerce. And I told him I play quid pro quo. If I give you anything, Senator of South Carolina, I want something in return for it.
Wait a minute,
I
wait a
said,
minute. I got to make sure I'm following you. I know that Jimmy Carter appointed you for a government position. We talked about that last time we were together. Are you telling me you were negotiating directly with Strom Thurmond?
yes. As a matter of fact, I'm the only one. And so as a matter of fact, I was appointed to be an assistant secretary in commerce, the first black in the history of the nation to be put over commerce for the United States government. And secondly, in that I was also the chairman for economic development for Eastern and Southern governors. Okay, I was the only black that ever been over the governors. Then, and thirdly, is that they put me over the property disposal program, which means any surplus property that the government owned that was just laying around doing nothing, I had the authority, the full authority to give it away to whoever the hell I wanted to give it to based on their requests from me, to me. And so, and Strom Thurmond came to me and says, Dr. Anderson, he said, I need some things in South Carolina. I said, like what? He said, I like to have some steam shovels and some tractors and I need some Quonset huts and things like that. He said, could you get some of those for me? I said, yes, I can. And all I needed was my own damn sentence, my signature on a form, one sheet, and I could give away anything I wanted in the damn government. And black folk in this America didn't even know that. And Simeon Booker for Jet Magazine wrote a long story saying the most powerful black in America is Dr. Claud Anderson, and you blacks don't even know it. You still been talking about Urban League and all this stuff. He has authority to give away any damn thing he wants in the federal government. And I said, Strom Thurmond, what do you want? He said, here's a list. Gave it to me. I said, fine, I'll get you these items. I had a staff of 45 people sitting down in Charleston, South Carolina, to go out and find whatever I wanted and bring it to me and give me the serial number off the equipment or whatever it was, and I would sign it and give it away to him. And so I said, okay, Strom Thurmond, I'll give it all to you, and I have it all stacked up for you within 1 month. And so I sent out some staff members to do it, and they brought back everything. Now he said, now, Dr. Anderson, since you say you believe in quid pro quo, what do you want in return for this? I said, damn it, I want something that you've never done in this country. Never done. He said, what's that? I said, I want 3 damn black federal judges.
Whoa.
Pointed straight from me to the United States to run this country. He said, you got it.
Dr. Anderson, I don't want us to miss who we're listening to right now. Yes, I was aware of Strom Thurmond, but I did not connect the dots. You are an octogenarian. You are living a long life, but me not connected the dots. Like, that's right. It's not just in the book, Vicky, or the newspaper you were reading about Strom Thurmond. Dr. Claud Anderson, girl, negotiated with this man. You said in your position with the Commerce Department, you using quid pro quo with one of the staunchest, most outspoken racists at that time, you negotiated in that time and demanded 3 judges?
Yes, ma'am. I said, I want 3 federal judges, and I want them appointed almost immediately. And at the same time, I'm giving you this damn equipment. Now, so now what he says, you got it. And I said, I want LC Hastings down in Florida, in Broward County. I want him as a federal judge. Point 1. He said, okay, I got it. I said, 2, I want a friend of mine I knew, blacks up in Jacksonville, Florida. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm sorry, it slips my mind. That's old age. And he appointed him to be a federal judge in Jacksonville, Florida. Now I said, he said, what's the third one? I said, give me a black out of West Coast. I picked a black out of San Diego, California, and told him, now you make him a federal judge too. Now, so at the same time, now keep in mind that since 1789, they've only planted 1 black.
Yes, sir.
In all those hundreds of years. Hell, I got 3 blacks appointed in 1 damn month. And this, I didn't get Urban League and NAACP didn't help me. I stood up and had some damn backbone and balls and told the biggest racists in America, we practice quid pro quo. You give me 3 damn black judges right now. You give me 3 black judges and I'll give you some equipment. And that's how you got those three black judges. Now, and I want you to also to give me an answer now. You tell me, why is it that I can get three black judges in a matter of months, and in a matter of 300 years, blacks couldn't get one, but one in 300 years, and Claud Anderson get three in a month by himself.
My goodness, family, you are tuned into the Vicky Show. I am so pleased and honored and fortunate to be doing my second live interview with the great living legend and icon, Dr. Claud Anderson. Please share this with everyone. Our brother is breaking down for us the power, political power, specifically today talking about the judiciary, and he wants us to take notes, and he's giving us some powerful points. One of the things you mentioned earlier also was of course, the main thing, Supreme Court, but the way you broke it down, we know about the Supreme Court, but you broke down the fact that they came into existence, as you said, the guardian of racism. And I think other than Thurgood Marshall, I think he was, of course, the first black on the Supreme Court. Yes, sir.
All of them were white racists. Not only white racists, baby, they were also slave owners.
And slave owners. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And now look at them now. What change you have. Look at now, here we are. All these hundreds of years later, look at the Supreme Court. You still got everything in the white. And you got one white man sitting there pretending he's black, called Clarence Thomas, that votes against everything for black folk. Now they finally put a black woman on there. And so I said, y'all are playing damn games. How can you tell me you're a Supreme Court and always rule against black folk, point one. And point two, how can you have about 16 or 1700 federal judges, and all those have been whites, except the ones Claud Anderson put on there?
That's right. That's right. And those are the federal judges that's lower than the Supreme Court, because other than Thurgood Marshall, what are your thoughts on Thurgood Marshall? Of course, he was the only other singular one, but he's passed away and he left the court in 91.
Well, he was a good, strong black man, but they played him for a fool and some stuff when he got to that point when we needed him. And Martin Luther King led the crowd on doing that. And the NAACP led the crowd on doing that. Let me go on through this. I'm going to show you something. I want you to fill out all these points. You hold those points, baby, and you just say, we never forget these points, okay? So
yes, keep going. I'll get to him later. I don't want to mess with what you're doing. I'm listening. We're listening.
Okay. So then the federal judges, they all originally exercised the authority they were appointed to have. The Supreme Court is not doing what is legal. Everything that Supreme Court is illegal. The Supreme Court was given the rights to do three things. They had a right to sit in judgment on ambassadorial appointments, point one. They could get involved in ambassadorial appointments and comment on those. Two, they can get involved in lower case hearings that was between more than one state, like two states had a conflict. Okay. They could get involved in that. And three, that they could get involved if you had a federal appointee that was not carrying out his job. Now, those are only three things that the United States Supreme Court has authority to do. I got all these damn black lawyers, and what I'm telling you now, they don't even know this and call themselves lawyers. Then at the same time, here, they did not have the authority to even get involved in racial issues. Supreme Court has no authority to be in racial issues. Do you know most blacks with all these law degrees don't even know that? Wow. And so they got the authority in 1803. After 1790, 89, here comes 1803. Okay. Now they get some, and there's a case called Madison versus Marlboro, and there was some discussion on that. The Supreme Court got involved, and a decision had to be made. And they say, well, we don't have the authority, but we'll do it anyway, because who knows? Nobody gives a damn about what we do. We'll do it. And they made some decision in the Madison and Marlboro decision about what they're going to do. And they got away with it because nobody made an issue. That was it. That was in 1803. Now, follow me now, from 1803 all the way up to 1857. Okay. They had no authority to get involved in race matters. Okay. in 1857, here comes the Dred Scott decision.
Okay.
And now the Dred Scott decision came up about a black man who was saying he was free and he should be free because he was not involved. He was no longer had a slave owner, and he should be able to go on his own and take care of his own family.
Yes.
And so that case came before the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court jumped in on it. And then the Supreme Court final decision on that case, called the Dred Scott decision of 1857. And then it came back and said, well, as far as we're concerned, a black man has no rights that a white man is bound to respect. Are you with me now?
Yes,
now,
sir.
1803 to 1857. They didn't have authority to make a decision regarding Dred Scott decision, because that was talking about a racial issue, and they never had the constitutional right to get involved in race matters. Okay, but they went on and did it anyway and said, Dred Scott, you ain't got no damn rights. Okay, now, and so after the Civil War broke out about 3 or 4, 5 years later, and at the end of the Civil War, the first thing that the radical Republicans tried to do was to give black folks some authority, some rights. They said, then we write a new constitution. Why? Because they said a new constitution is needed.
Mm.
That's why we say we must have you've heard about the construction, new construct. Say, go back and reconstruction, where reconstruction went. Reconstruction. Reconstruction means go back and redo what you're supposed to did in that first constitution. Yeah. The first constitution is anti-black. Mm-hmm. Mark this down. The first constitution was the first affirmative action in the United States. It was written strictly for white folk. Mm-hmm. White folk have always had affirmative action. You write that down. It was a constitution. It was the first affirmative action plan in the United States. And the second one was written by me in 1970. I wrote the second affirmative action plan in the United States following the Constitution, saying that giving black folks rights. I did that when I was with the governor's office in Florida in 1970. Wow. And that's what you all been working on since then. I wrote the second Constitution, the affirmative action plan in the United States to conflict with the Constitution. I tell black folk, don't accept the Constitution. Talking about this is our constitutional rights. Constitution, United States Constitution gave you no rights. They stripped you of everything, your humanity, call you a field animal, 3/5 of a human being, equal, and that you were nothing. You were a number, period. Now I got all these blacks, including civil rights leaders, always talking about we got constitutional rights. You don't have no damn constitutional rights. The only time you even got some rights was when I wrote the damn plan in 1970 for black folk. The second plan, the first one was a constitution. And they go and run around for talking about what the damn Constitution said. Constitution says you're nothing. You're absolutely nothing. You're nothing. And I changed that by writing one for the state of Florida that went all over the United States. I didn't write it, but I didn't. I remember I wrote it only for those first two groups in that sheet I gave you.
Yes.
I wrote, okay, and that was for black versus whites. I wrote that plan in that respect, saying that the only minority in this country is black people.
Yes, sir.
That's it. Okay, on the left-hand corner there, at that top, those two up there, that was what that was for black people. That was the only issue at that time. Now watch this now, baby, and I'm gonna give you another point to put down.
Yes, sir. We're listening.
Okay.
Don't forget your point. By the way, family, I put the chart in the community page at VickyDillard.tv. So all of you all have access to it because my team had a hard time putting this chart up live. It's on the community page at VickyDillard.tv. Go ahead, Dr. Anderson. We're listening.
Okay.
I don't want to interrupt. This is too good. I'm listening.
So what the court said as soon as the Civil War ended in 1863, they says now we must go back and correct the Supreme Court decision in 1857 saying Negroes and niggers don't have any rights. We have to correct that. That was the first thing that the Congress said, we're going to have to do something. The radical Republicans said that. We must do something for black folk. And so then they said, we're going to write a new constitution. And that was the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment was written for that. And what they said is that, and it's Saunders and all the other free radical Republicans stood up in Congress and says, there's only two things that black people in America can ever be. You're either going to be a slave or you're going to be free. But to be free, you must minimally have 40 acres, a mule, and $100.
Okay.
And so, and that was a definition for writing the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. It was written strictly and solely for black folk. That was before all, and I remember that's before all these other groups came in. They weren't even in the damn country. How are you going to make them equal to black folk? Talking about minorities. We didn't have any minorities. It was black people. And so they wrote the 13th and 14th Amendment saying, 13th, that you all are now free. 14th Amendment says you got special rights and considerations that's only peculiar to you. And then the 15th Amendment saying you all are the only people that can vote. Why in the hell are black folk, the NAACP and rest talking about you're suppressing the vote? No, it's the Constitution that's suppressing the damn vote. That's what they suppressed it back in 1789. And they block our vote. Black people were the only people that were given the right to vote. All these other people coming to the country just came into the country. Nobody ever gave them the right to vote.
My goodness.
Only black. The 15th Amendment was strictly and solely for black folk. And yet black folk always going around talking about, we got to register because they won't let us vote. You're the only person in law that has a right to vote.
Dr. Anderson, you are dropping so many jewels. Everybody hit that thumbs up button, share. Everybody write the website powernomics.com down, because after this is over, we all want everybody to donate, buy books by the dozens, by the hundreds, because we're going to continue this. I don't want to interrupt. Dr. Anderson, keep going.
Okay. And so in addition to the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment, which was written strictly for blacks, they said we're going to write 6 or 7 laws that'll be for black folk. Okay. And Andrew Johnson came in and replaced Lincoln, who just got assassinated. And so they said he vetoed him. And guess what? They came back a second time and overrode his veto and said the 13th and 14th Amendment, it will stay in. This time you can't overrate it because it's a law. Okay. You can't overrate it. And so it's not based on what you think, it's based on the law. And they said, we're going to write 3 or 4 others with it. And here's what black folks still don't know. They wrote about 3 to 4 more laws, like on highway law, saying these white folk cannot touch a black person that's in travel or going up and down a highway. And so, because the black folk at that time had put out what they call a green book, which means that we picked every hotel and every gas station. Okay, go ahead.
They did a movie about that recently, about the Green Book. So you're connecting these dots, Dr. Anderson. We're gonna keep going.
Okay, so black folk had a Green Book out, but now they're making a movie about it and talking about white folk with the damn Green Book. It was only strictly for blacks. Every black in every major city got those books, so they know if I'm going from Greensboro, North Carolina, up to Washington D.C., I know where to stop and get gas. I know where to go to hotel. I know where I can eat. That was called the Green Book. Nobody explains that stuff to black folk. You got a damn Congressional Black Caucus. Where are they? You're some of the dumbest asses on earth. Okay. And they're totally useless. About as useless as mammary glands on a damn bow hog. But anyway, total waste. And so they passed 3 or 4 more other laws. And guess what? Here comes, as soon as they got them on the books, here comes the damn Supreme Court again.
Okay.
And so Reconstruction had gone from 1865 up to 1875. By 1875 now, 10 years after Reconstruction had come into existence, the United States Supreme Court jumped in there and says, we're gonna kill half of these laws and say they're unconstitutional. They went in there and wiped out about 4 of them, saying you black folks still don't have any rights. Only thing we all can get is what went past us and went right into the laws by the Congress. It wasn't put to a vote. It went right into the damn books. That was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Okay. But then the reason we let those go in there, because they were only for black folk. But then the Supreme Court then says, well, we can't get to the 13th and 14th and the 15th Amendment. Here's what we'll do. Those laws, we're going to expand those laws to make them applicable to everybody. See, so even the midgets and humpbacks and pigeon-toed and people with ingrown corns and everything else on their foot can now be qualified to be equal to black folk. So the biggest lie, one of the biggest lies that were ever told at that point was put out the law saying anything in this country, all people, reason we put all those people on this sheet, all these different groups, Eskimos, you see that over in the corner, Eskimos, over here equal to blacks. When did the Eskimos pick damn cotton? I'm asking. They never picked them, but they equal to black people picking cotton. They never picked no damn cotton.
Wow.
Okay, you got it now, okay?
Yes, sir.
And so they say when they rule those 4 of those laws, they're unconstitutional for black folk. And so the black folk went right back into slavery again under what they call the black laws, the black code. They went right back into semi-slavery because the United States Supreme Court wiped out all those laws except the 13th and 14th and 15th. And what they did with those, they expanded them so they apply to everybody but black folk.
But black people. Oh my gosh. You are making this make so much sense. The way you're connecting us, all of these different parts we've heard, but you are assembling it for us to see the progression of it and how they did this to undermine us, especially when you broke down how the Supreme Court was brought into existence as the guardians of racism. Keep going, Dr. Anderson. Everybody keep sharing. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Let everybody know to tune in now to VickyDilla.tv. Go ahead, Dr. Anderson. Okay, so Supreme Court then ruled all those laws were unconstitutional, and that took you back into what we call Jim Crowism. Okay. That's where Jim Crow jumped up then under the black laws. And the black laws were nothing but a repeat of what we call the slave codes of 1710. Slave code of 1710 was exactly what they called the black codes back when after they killed off in 1870 those laws for civil rights for black folk. Yes, sir. Black codes. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay. Now, under the black codes, what it says is the only way a black person can ever get to be free is in those codes. Those codes identified what was acceptable to whites and what was acceptable to blacks. Okay. What blacks could do and what whites could do. It was like one coin, but it had 2 sides to it. White side, what whites can do. White folk must never let a black person look equal to them in any respect. A white person could never reward black folk. A white person could never give a black a title. White folk could never let a black person call him by his first name. A white person should never let a black person look out the same window he looks out of. Black person could not, it was against the law for him to play games with white folk. It went on, and based on that, between about 1890 and 1880 and 1900, they lynched 2,800 black men. Lord have mercy. They lynched them for doing something in relation to breaking some of those laws, one law or the other. And they said, we're against it. And most of them had something to do with women, white women. Like yes, sir. A white woman, looking at a white woman, writing love letters to white women, showing up at a white man's house when he was not home was a death sentence. You get your ass killed for showing up at a house if the white man wasn't home. Right. So when black folk were freed, a lot of these blacks had to walk across the country, and they had no jobs because white folks said, we're going to set you all free. But where we're going to give 2 billion acres of free land to white folk, we're going to give you for white immigrants, we're going to give you blacks a damn thing. You have to leave slavery with no shoes, no clothes, no home, no land, no tools, no education, no church,
no organizations, no education. It's against the law for you to be caught trying to learn how to read and write. And that'll cost you $100 and 39 lashes on your butt. And we'll make sure that when you're whipped, you'll be whipped either by Indians. They use Indians to beat black folk for trying to run away. Every time they caught a black person, he got his ass whipped for trying to run away. And they let Indians beat them. And they tell the Indians, beat them as much as you want to, and you can castrate them if you want to. So Indians were beating blacks and castrating them. And they're always going around talking about Indians were our best friends. Indians were never friends of black folk. From the first treaty, what's called the New York Treaty, the Indians always sided with whites. That's why they started calling them a civilized tribe. Cherokee, Choctaws, Greek, Seminole, and yeah, and Choctaw. We'll call you civilized because y'all gonna help us whip these niggas and keep them in line. So y'all ought to become slave traders, slave hunters, and we pay you $25 for capturing every runaway black you can catch and bringing them back to white man to be punished. And if you can't bring him back alive, if you bring him back dead with his ears attached, we'll give you $22. Okay.
And this is why you say the Indians also owe us reparations. You said that
That's
last
right.
time.
That's right. And right now I got lawsuits in right now in the federal courts. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of my own money just with this lawsuit since 707. I've been filing lawsuits for black folk because I didn't get the money. Not one wealthy white nor wealthy black ever gave me a penny. I'm still paying lawyers out of my own pocket.
Dr. Anderson, I need you to say that one more time, that you have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of your own money to do what, sir?
To exercise or execute the Indian lawsuit. They're saying that all those 1866 settlements with Indians and the tribes, that Indians are obliged to pay backs, and the federal government are obliged to pay them for the money they never received for slavery, because the 1866 Indian treaties all said the same thing, that blacks must be treated in all manners equal to what an Indian is being treated with. And these so-called Indians in America, 95% of them are never Indians. Those are whites passing for Indians. They went under what came under the Dawes Commission. The Dawes Commission was authorized for a commission to go out and find all the blacks who had been slaves under Indians and set them free, because Indians were still holding almost 15 million black, not million, 15 million, I don't know how many thousand, I've forgotten. Excuse me, don't let me give that number. That's not exactly correct anymore. I don't remember. But yes, they were still holding about 12 or 15,000, 100,000, or whatever it was, of blacks as slaves when those Indian settlements came up in 1866. The 1866 Indian treaties, every Indian treaty, and why they were getting Indians treaties was because they were planning on giving Indians reparations.
Say that again.
Because they want some grounds to give Indians reparations, because they were going to give blacks a reparation. And they say, well, what we'll do then is that under 1860 Indian treaties, we'll give them money. And say in the Choctaw, they gave them $150,000 and told them to split it up with the black Indians and the black freemen and give them some money. Blacks never got a penny. And then also in the treaties, they say that any land that Indians own, blacks have rights to have access to it. Blacks should be able to go on any Indian land anytime they want to. And two, as black freemen and black Indians, also they should not only should they give them some money, but blacks must have access to all the resources on them damn reservations, to the trees, the water, the fish, everything, silver, gold, crown, anything on a reservation. I think black folk right now should be able to set up their own casinos in the United States, any place they want, just like Indians got casinos all over the United States.
Wow.
Last year the Seminoles got a $135,000 each just for the casinos and the rock cafes for Indians. Every Indian received $135,000. And then first the Federal Indian Bureau, the Federal Indian Bureau also gives them something like about $28,000 a year for every Indian, so-called Indians. And out of that, 90% of those, 90 to 95% of all those so-called Indians in America are nothing but white folk who went over to the Dawes Commission and gave them $5 to put their name on it as a white person on the Dawes rolls so they can get benefits in this country that black folk can't get. White folk, poor whites can get those funds and the money in the land.
And that's why you call them the $5 Indians.
That's why. That's the $5 Indians. And that was in the history books way back before I was born. That's what they are. For my grandmother and everybody else. Those are fabricated Indians that are white folk who went over and paid the Dawes Commission. Here's $5. Put me down as an Indian on it, so I can get all those benefits, and my children and grandchildren can get them, even though I'm just as white as clay.
Dr. Anderson, you are dropping so many jewels. I'm telling you, for half the show, I've been feeling this energy and goosebumps all over me right now. Everybody, you are tuned in to the great Dr. Claud Anderson, and everybody is saying and how you dropping all these jewels, but you are connecting these dots. And I admit to knowing so many different parts, but not like the way you are assembling this building. You are doing a masterful job. So everybody, thank you so much for sharing this link. Everybody share, thumbs up, share. People are asking how they can give and how they can donate. We're sending them to powernomics.com. Dr. Anderson, before you keep going, do you want to give us any specific instructions on how they can support and donate, sir?
Yes, I wish they would go to the free harvestinstitute.com. Okay. And they can go to the website and they can get all the information. Plus, there's a lot of newsletters up there that they need to pull down and they can read. And I cover all these issues for black folk. I'm the only forensic historian in the entire United States. Out of 335 million people, I'm the only one. And I'm the only one that's totally committed to black folk. I don't try to pretend that I'm committed to diversity and multicultural and immigrants and gays and midgets and all that stuff. I only look out for black folk. Now, if people don't like it, I don't care. I don't give a damn. At my age, I have nothing to gain but the love and respect and appreciation of my people, which is what I've been fighting for all of my life.
And boy, are we so blessed. I'm putting the link in the chat right now for the Harvest Institute. For all of you that are asking specifically about that, please make sure YouTube is playing with us. Okay, here it goes. Make sure that you pay attention to the link that I'm putting in the chat. And I'm trying to see if I can pin it at the top. Yes, it's pinned at the top on YouTube. The Harvest link directly, so you don't have to search for it. I just put it in the link at VickyDiller.tv. Everybody's saying how much they love you, how much you're dropping jewels. Family, I'm not talking because I want him to keep dropping these jewels, and I ain't trying to interrupt, only to tell you how you can donate. And I want everybody to do it, and I want you to have your social groups, your religious groups, individuals, families, and others to do the same. This is what's going to help us move forward, family. So go to the Harvest Institute. The link is attached at the top here at VickyDiller.tv. I'm saying VickyDiller.tv because my team chops up the videos later on, days later. So if you're watching me on another platform, you'll know to go to harvestinstitute.com or check the link there at VickyDiller.tv. Okay, Dr. Anderson, keep going, please.
You're crazy, girl, but that's good. I love it.
Yes, sir. And whenever you're ready to stop, we respect your time. We're at 58 minutes. So I want to respect your time to not overdo it. So whenever you're ready to stop, but go ahead and drop.
Don't worry. The things I'm saying to you now, I got so many things I need you all to start getting involved in. And yes, stay away from this. Stay away from these symbolic issues that they love to throw on black folk. Like for instance, right now, the Biden administration and Harris administration ain't doing a damn thing for black folk. They rolled into office on the back of black folk, making all these promises to black folk. And what they always want to do is offer them the same thing that every administration since 1789 have made the same offers. We'll give you all a job. Black folk don't need no damn jobs. What they need is wealth. They need power, resources. They need to own and control resources. Tell black folk, go get resources. Tell me you don't want, if it's something you can't take to the bank, tell me you don't need it and don't want it and you're not interested in it. Always give you a job.
Now, Dr. Anderson, before you get back, I got to throw this in real quick. Recently, and I'm not trying to beat up on anybody personally, but I am discussing this principle because I'm hearing this from several different talking heads, Black talking heads. Dr. Umar Johnson just did a big interview on the Breakfast Club, and he told Charlemagne the God, and I was upset with Charlemagne. I like Charlemagne because he brought you on. That's really the only reason I like Charlemagne and the minister, but other than that, I don't care for him. He's got 1 point, 2 points with me because he brought on you and the minister, but other than that, I ain't worried about him. But he had Dr. Umar Johnson on recently, and Dr. Umar said he's for reparations, but Dr. Umar said that we need reparations for psychology first. We need to get our minds together first. We need to get all our neighborhoods together and all this stuff together first before they give us the checks. He said that money won't solve our problems. I'm just curious, not that you're directly addressing Dr. Umar, but what do you think about Black folks coming out saying that money ain't gonna help us?
Well, see, then I totally disagree with him. And I'm crazy about Umar because Umar's a good friend.
Yes,
but
sir.
Umar is wrong in that respect. Money is the only thing that's really important. Because see, because you see, everything is stacked in a vertical order. And the first thing you must do is at the bottom, have a commonality of what you want, your goals are, and then out of that, and your defense, then come up and build a community. Community means either communities physically, like buildings and whatever it is, or you must have a sense of community, a broad sense of community, where we all learn to work together. And once you build that first floor, it's like a 5-story building. So set your mind now, baby, on a 5-story building. My wife just stuck a note in front of me, said, "Stop cursing." I apologize to all of you all for cursing on front of them. She just said, "Don't be cursing to them." And that's not directed at them, Joe.
Oh no, you good. We love you. We love you on fire. We understand it, sir.
And so your first floor is always a community. Once you start seeking for empowerment, the first thing you must do is get a community or a sense of community. And in that community, you started doing what? Because we don't have not one community in America. Oh, we got a neighborhoods. There's nothing in a neighborhood. A neighborhood is absent of everything. And see, to have a community, you must have at least 3 elements in it. You must have a wholly independent economic attitude and material manifestations in there, which means you got to have major businesses in there, economy, in a community. Community must first have an economy, and in that economy, they must produce their own jobs, businesses, products, services, and sense of protection and goals. That's the first thing you must have. 2, you must have a commitment. You must have a commitment to protect and buy from and support your own people first and foremostly. To be a community, you must learn who to go for and who to go against. Third thing, to have a community, you must have all 3 of these things now. You must have a political structure that responds to your needs first and foremost before trying to take care of the world, save the world, or everybody else. Okay, so you must have 3 things to have an economy, a commitment to your own community and people in there that provides. And that's number 2 here from Zeal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Erica, is that Erica? Yeah, I can't say it too well. Okay, in a commitment, in a community, you must have not commitment, it's community. In that community, you must have the ability to produce income, to produce jobs. And see, nobody ever tries to make a community for Black folk. You've never heard a politician says, "I'm going to put up money and resources, and if I'm going to put up, and this is what I want Umar to do if he can do it, if he can modify it without creating problems for his own self and stuff." But you must have a commitment to buy from your own people first and foremost, and to sell to everybody.
Yes.
Buy from your own people first and foremost, and sell to anybody. You must produce products in your community that can be vertically integrated, which means that the first floor will be an economy. The second floor is politics. Do not get into politics and start trying to play politics. See, I've been playing politics now for 50 years and running campaigns for governors, presidents, 2 presidents. I don't know how many damn governors, but also mayors and state legislators and congressmen. I'm the only Black in the country that have done all these things across the board. And so what I want to so get your community together and buy your own products and goods. Even if you don't like them, the products, still buy them. The Jews will tell you in a second You tell a Jew, I'm selling these. He said, okay, I'll take 2 of them. And the next time he comes by to see you, he might say, and I'm selling this. He said, well, I'll take one of those too. Always buy products from your own people so that your money will bounce 8 to 12 times in your own community before it goes out of your hands into the hands of other people that are in your communities. And what you have to understand is that the minute all these immigrants come into this country, they're going to come right to your community. They're going to come right to your community. You know why?
Yes.
They're going to come right to your community because that's what a void is. Right now, Black folk only control less than 1/2 of 1% of anything of value. And 98%, rather 96% of all money in Black folks' hands go directly out of their community before it bounces 1 time. But your money should be bouncing 8 to 12 times. Like Hispanic money bounces 6 to 12 times. White fund money bounces 8 to 12 times. Arabs and Arabs and Hispanic money. Arabs and some other group now. I'm trying to think of it, but the Arabs money bounces 13. Yeah, Asian. That's right, 13 to 14 times.
Yes.
And Jewish money bounces 18 times.
Ooh.
Which means that, and Black folks' money doesn't bounce once. As soon as a Black person gets paid where it is right now, all your audience right now are getting paid. But guess what? As soon as they leave there, they're going to run right to a white, Asian, Arab, Hispanic store and spend it.
Facts.
And here's a point that you tell all these Black politicians, that instead of trying to give Black folks jobs, help them, give them money to build businesses, to produce services and goods and products and opportunities for their own Blacks. Black kids right now are forced to try to get a job by leaving, dressing up, cleaning up, and go to somebody else's neighborhood, begging them for a job. It is not white folks, people, or white or any other group's responsibility to give you a job. You're supposed to provide jobs for your own people and hire your own people and support your own people. And even if you don't like the product, buy it once in a while.
Say that again. Say that part again, because people get caught up in a bunch of other stuff because we're just now trying to catch up. So we think we're supposed to have it all together. You just said, even if it's not necessarily something you want to like, you said buy a few of them. Say that again. I
told Black folk, even if it's not totally what you want, if you got a choice, buy it from your own people first. Let me give you an example. If up in let's go to Oregon or someplace. Up in Oregon,
okay.
When they only had one Black gas station in town. All the Black gas stations are whites. They said, Dr. Anderson, what should we do? I said, and they said, I'll go down to that Black gas station. It's always run down, and then sometimes they might have a little bread. The bread might be hard, and that gas station costs three or four pennies more. I said, who gives a damn? I said, I want you to go by there and buy it. I said, listen, all you listeners, you Blacks up here in Oregon, I want all of you to follow me on this. I want every Black here who's got a car. You fill your gas tank up with gas whenever it needs to be filled. You fill it with gas coming out of a Black gas station, and you only got one. And so so within about 2 months, they sent me the newspaper, and the newspaper was asking, why all these Black folk got all the traffic jammed up trying to get into one gas station? And guess what? The Black folk were buying so much gas. I said, and once you get that money, now you do me a favor. You fix up that darn gas station.
Yeah.
You paint it and you clean it up. Okay, the toilets in the bathroom, put in new ones. I said, you reduce your gas prices down when you can. And if the bread is old today, you get some new bread tomorrow, some fresh bread coming in. Yeah. And if you make a promise to Black folk, keep your promise. I went down to all of those Blacks started doing it. I was so proud of them up there. And then the gas station did extremely well. And he bought a place next door and expanded it. So Black folk can do it. If all they need is a little leadership. That's all they need.
That's right.
And right now, what happens is every time a Black person gets paid, he runs directly to a non-Black owned business and give that money directly to non-Blacks. And consequently, Black people go bankrupt. Black businesses like yours will go bankrupt every night. You know why it goes bankrupt every night? Because every night in that city, every Black business, every white business goes bankrupt. because they take all the money out of the cash register and take it to the suburbs where they're living. And so, and that means that in the Black community, there's no money in the community anymore, because whites just shut their business down to go home to eat dinner, and the only thing that's left might be a few Black businesses, but they don't have the equipment, the services, the goods, and the products. And so you started holding your money. And then I want all you Blacks to do me a big favor. You do this for me, because I'm way off my topic now. But you take that every time. You tell every Black out there within your listenership that I want them to take every paper dollar they can get their hands on, and then open their wallet up. And I said, I want you to put a check mark on the top of it, on every dollar you got there, one check mark, and or two, or whatever you want to put on it. But I want every dollar marked. And until you have made that $1 pass through, and the next Black that gets that dollar, there's a one check mark on it. You put a second check mark on it, and then we know it's bounced in the Black community twice. Okay, I want every dollar in the Black people's hands to bounce anywhere 12 to 13 times, 8 to 12, anything you can get in there. I want it to bounce. Right now, we got about $1.3 trillion in our hands every year. I want that $1.3 trillion to bounce around in every Black community at least 8 to 12 times. So that means that when I multiply that 1 trillion, let's say I multiply it 10 times. What would that have? I would have $10 trillion.
Come on
in
now.
my community. You see what I'm saying?
Yes,
we build our own stores, our own products and goods and services, and we learn to play the game. And the only way right now you can stop a Black person is that on payday. As soon as a Black person gets paid, he runs right to a white store.
Right.
Only way you can stop him is to run over him with a truck. Otherwise, he's trying to get to it, and as soon as he can, the spinning got to get out of his hands. And so I want Black folks to learn to hold your money and make it bounce, and put it in Black folks' hands, and tell them to say that has one check on it. Before you let this dollar out of your hand, and you put another check mark with it going into another Black hand. Then once you get the 2 checks, he put a mark on it for 3 checks. And when you started getting money in your hands, you would be rich people. And all of a sudden you pull a $20 bill out and say, damn, this $20 has 13 checks on it, 12 checks on it. And that means 12 Blacks have touched this. Goodness gracious. That Anderson gave us a good idea. We're going to take this, and we're going to instead of having $1.3 trillion, we're going to have $13 trillion passing through our hands. Y'all do it for me. I'm an old man now. I don't have the strength. I used to be called a young tiger. I guess now I'm just an old jackass. But anyway, I can't keep up with all this stuff for y'all. And I didn't get a chance to finish on this justice. Let me make a couple more points on that.
Okay, yeah. This is your show. Go for it.
Okay, and see, now, like I said, and by so Reconstruction only lasted 10 years, from 1865 to 1875. And people say, why did Reconstruction end? Because during the Reconstruction period, they were there giving modifications to the law about taking care of Black folk. They would begin to expand it. They expanded so they took care of everybody but Black folk. They included the Indians in there. That's how Indians got reparations. Indians were slave holders. Every Indian was a slave trader, slave holder, fought with the South, and were under what they call the Black Flag compromise and flag program, which means if you catch a Black person in a uniform of the Union Army and you catch him fighting for Black folk, you ought to kill him instantly. You don't try to you'll never put him into a concentration camp or put him into a holding camp. You blow his brains out right there. That was when the Klan started up in Tennessee. That was called the Black Flag thing. That's why you can go see all these Civil War films, except the ones when Anderson give you this information. But they never put not one Black into a camp to hold him as a prisoner. They don't take Black prisoners under the Black Flag problem. They kill you instantly.
That is so true, because we even allowed the Japanese to be in camps. We allowed all these other folks to exist and be in groups and paid them reparations Oh my gosh, you are so right. And I remember reading about that, but you just connected some dots there. Powerful.
Yeah, well, and that's what they do. They try to give everybody else reparations. They've given every group of human beings on earth, every religion, every culture, every language,
Mm,
every ethnic group have
mm.
all gotten reparations except Black people, because Black folk don't approach it correctly. And because we keep thinking it's a social issue, it's not a social issue. It's an economic issue. That's why I told you about that 5-story building. The first floor is economics.
Say
That,
that
that,
again. Say that
that,
again.
that's right. You get into a community and you practice economics and hold your money. Then when politics come by, you use the money from your first floor, from all your businesses on the first floor on that 5-story building I was telling you about.
Yes, sir.
You take money off the first floor and you put that on the second floor. The second floor is called politics.
Mhm.
Do not play games in politics until you got a lot of money. Don't listen to stuff about the vote is important. The vote ain't worth a damn. That's all BS. All those people that's telling you about what the vote can do are lying to you. You tell me, come see me and tell me that. I can't think of anybody else that ran as many campaigns as I ran and won as many campaigns as I did. I don't
Yes,
mind
sir.
bragging about it now. I'm reaching an age now. I don't mind bragging. I don't
Come
care
on.
anymore. But I tell them, you use your money off the first floor in your businesses to take care of what you need on the second floor. The second floor is politics. Instead of worrying about going to vote, I found out from being with the police department and an investigator from the Safe Street and Crime Act that mafia-owned people and organized crime, they don't go out to vote. They don't give a darn about voting.
That's
Rich people don't
right.
give a damn about voting. Only poor people want to vote because they know it doesn't mean a damn thing. There's no connection between putting a politician in the office and getting resources. The whole point of voting is for you to get benefits. Never in the history of this nation has any benefits came directly to Blacks for having benefited from their votes, for voting for somebody in office, and all those voting people receiving those votes, probably whites. Even Blacks don't do anything. There's no connection between putting a Black person in office and getting benefits. I found that out in a major study that back in 1963 with the Harvard Institute.
Wow.
At that time, in terms of benefits, we only had 100 Black persons in politics. Only 100 of them holding special office across this country.
Mm.
And I checked there on what I call their conditioning process.
Mm.
And that's stuff like food stamps, welfare, all these imprisonment, all these social disjointed things they were involved in. And then I measured it, quantified it. Then I did the same thing in 1990 and using the same test instrument and find out what happened to Black folk between having 100 Black elected officials, and in 1990 we had over 9,000 Black state elected officials. So the number of Blacks elected to office had gone up from 100 to 9,000. And guess what? I looked at the conditions of Black folk. The conditions of Black folk did not improve. In fact, they deteriorated, went worse, went backwards. So there's no connection between a black person putting a Black person in office and getting benefits, because we don't hold Black folks accountable. We don't say your primary responsibility in getting elected. You get in this office, your primary responsibility is to take care of this community, this neighborhood, our people. Don't come and tell me what you've done for gays and midgets and all that stuff. You tell me what you've done for Black folk. You bring a report back to us at the end of the year and say, this is what I did for y'all last year while I was in office. I took care of y'all. I did something for you. They don't do anything. You get them, you vote out of office, or push them out of the race. Exile them. Say, we find out you're taking care of other groups and not us. Don't come back into our community anymore. Don't come into our clubs. Don't associate with us. We don't need you. We don't need any Black person right now sitting in the office. You got, I don't know how many, about 49 or 50 Blacks in the congressional caucus. You ask each one of them, give me a report on what you've been doing every year for Black folk. If you ain't doing a damn thing, don't run anymore. We don't want to see you. Okay?
Yes, sir. You are dropping so many jewels. Keep going. I know you said you wanted to give us a couple more things
Okay.
before we go.
Yes, I want to say that, and I say that as an example. After 1875, what was happening? We had problems coming up, and so integration came. Well, let me jump all the way to integration.
Okay.
You can show you how you got the integration. Again, your Supreme Court got in there to it and screwed you up in that.
Okay.
Let me tell you this. That's the guardian of racism. And see, that in South Carolina, North Carolina, where McClinton, South Carolina, in 1948, Black folk filed a lawsuit about how money was going into the school system inappropriately, with disparities all over. And so, they filed a lawsuit because they looked at the numbers and found that the state of South Carolina and North Carolina was paying about $112 for every white child going to school. Mm-hmm. But for every Black child, they were only paying $3.20. Woo! There wasn't enough money to take care of the schools. So Black schools were very deficient. And I took over education for the state of Florida. I took it over in 1970, and I stayed over to 1978. Now I stayed over education. I was the first Black and the only Black that's ever been totally over an educational system in a state, from everything from the elementary school all the way through graduate schools, every aspect of education in the private sector and in the public sector. I had the rights over all of them. Family, and I raised holy hell.
Family, I hope you're listening. Right. This man has done campaigns for governors. He's been appointed by Jimmy Carter for a commerce position. He has been over education departments, a businessman, an author, and so much more. Keep going, keep going. I'm just reminding us who we listening to.
Okay. Well, I told him, I said, and down in Winston-Salem, for instance, the same thing was true with how they were funding the schools, and the teachers were getting something like about less than half of what the white teachers were getting. Mm-hmm. And even at Florida A&M University, down in Florida, at that time, they people with doctor's degrees as professors in the white school, Florida State University, getting $3,000 to $4,000 more than a teacher with a PhD or doctor's degree in the Black schools. So I sent the Attorney General over to see him, George Shevin. Attorney Shevin. I said, go to Florida A&M and every damn Black college and white college in this state. You check for me and find out why there's a discrepancy in what Blacks are getting paid as professors in Black schools versus white schools. You report back to me, Attorney General Shevin. He said, okay. And he called back about a couple of weeks. And he said, Dr. Anderson, I'm having a hard time. I said, why? He said, because the Blacks don't want to talk about it. And so whites over at Florida State University was getting something like $14,000 and $15,000 a year for being as a professor. But the Black school, they were getting $9,000 a year. And I said, it hurts my feeling to keep trying to make Black folk do right. And that's why I'm talking to you all like this today. And my wife is screaming, quit cursing at them. And I apologize for that. But I said, I want them to do right. I love Black folk.
Yeah,
I love them.
We love you.
Half of them might not be worth a quarter, but they still belong to me.
Yes, okay.
And I want them to stand up and say, no, we ain't going for the okie dokie anymore. And so then he came back and said, we can't do anything because the teachers at FAMU said it doesn't bother them. And so in the public schools, the same thing was going on. And I went all through all the schools at that time. And I wrote a thing called a teacher corps proposal. At that time, Florida State University, Florida A&M University had been trying to get a teacher corps proposal approved to try to retrain some of their teachers. They tried 2 years in a row and couldn't get a penny. I sat down and wrote the damn thing myself and got them $3 million. I got a $3 million grant from the federal government just to give strictly to Florida A&M University to make sure that they started retraining their teachers. Wow. And when Florida State got $75,000 to fix up their stadium, they didn't give Florida A&M University not one penny. I built a radio station there, WOWD in Tallahassee, and I went on and took $35,000 out of my own pocket and put plastic caps on the seat covers in the Florida A&M University football stadium because you're getting splinters in your butt sitting on those stadium seats.
Wow.
Nobody else would give them any money. And now here I am over the education, I had to take money out of my radio station personally to go buy seats for them because blacks wouldn't even help me on that. And so right now, yes, I'm mad and angry about a lot of this damn stuff. And so that's why I want you all to know some of these things. And I really got off my point again, but anyway, what was I talking?
Everything you're sharing is so good. You were going to you were ending the part about the Federal Indian Bureau. That was one of the last things that you had talked about before you switched over. But you were moving forward with some of your judiciary points.
So right after 1865, when they gave black folks the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, and see they had passed an act that black folks be supplied with resources, they be given food and clothing and all that kind of stuff, and opportunities and houses and land. Guess what? The damn Supreme Court jumped in and said, no, let's change that. Let's change that and let's broaden it for what we call unemployed anybody, any whites, put poor whites in there too. And all the land that whites lost during the Civil War, all that land they lost, was supposed to go on to black folk. Those plantations were supposed to go on to black folk based on the law. They turned around and gave those back to all the white slave owners. Gave all the land back to white slave owners. Then set up a big land rush out of the Mississippi River, going across the river for a 24-hour land rush, and gave up another 2 million acres of free land in 24 hours to them.
Wow.
And I'm saying that that's so bad for blacks. They said, well, no, we also going to fix it so blacks can go into that pot of money that you all got for food, for ex-slaves, for food and clothing, for those poor black kids coming out of slavery. They can get some of that if some is left over, but most of it is going to go to whites too. So poor whites after the Civil War were put into a box with blacks, and whites took about everything that should have gone to blacks.
Wow.
And took that from them. And so that blacks didn't get anything after slavery other than the 13th and the 14th Amendment. Wow. And then the Supreme Court then turned right around, and the Supreme Court then turned around and broadened it so that everybody could compete with black folks to get those resources. And so every white person in the South got all of his land back. They got money. They got clothing. They borrowed, got everything they needed. And black folk got nothing except the 13th and 14th and 15th Amendment. Then the Darren Supreme Court then broadened that, so that applies to everybody. And that's how immigration came about. So now immigrants started pouring into the country. And those immigrants been poured into the country up until the present time. The Ukraine and the Afghanistan and the Hispanics, that's all down there in the border. We have brought in something like 5 or 6 million immigrants, since I told black folk back in 1995, look out, don't let them do that, because that's a violation of the law. The law says that all those resources must be going to black folk first before they go to anybody. They must be going to black folk. That black folk are exceptional people. Now here's another point for y'all to push. You must now start pushing that black people are exceptional people. They're special to anybody else in this country. Don't go by this stuff don't let them put you in the minority categories where they pretend that everybody's the same. They're not the same. None of these people are even in the country. That's why I gave you this sheet. They weren't even in the country. How are you gonna make them equal to black folk? The worst law ever told was that all people are equal and everybody have struggled equally to build this nation. That is one of the biggest lies ever told.
That's right.
Biggest lies ever told. They didn't. They weren't even in the country. They came into the country and been competing with you. Hispanics right now were the third biggest slave holders in the world were Hispanics. They came in from Spain. Hispanics, every Hispanic you got right now has already gotten benefits by being the beneficiary of rich white slave owners. That's why all those Spanish in the Caribbean, their ancestors were slave owners. They brought those blacks there as slaves. Puerto Rico, Cuba, all those places, Haiti. They brought them in. They had already gotten benefits by being the children of Hispanic slave owners. Then the same thing with every race, every ethnic group, every language group. Every group has enslaved black people. Everyone, and just remember this now. Don't worry about what whites enslaved black folk. Everybody has enslaved black folk.
Wow.
Okay, and gotten benefits. And see, even white women got benefits. When white women found out in 1868, that blacks were to get all these benefits, you know the first thing they did? They went straight to the Congress. White women went straight to the Congress. They were pushing that time about women's right to vote.
Exactly.
Women always had the right to vote. Women always had the right to vote. But the law says if you're a woman, you must own property. You had to be a property owner. They were being shut out of voting because they didn't own their damn property. And you see them out now talking about we too. You got everything. Everything. The white woman was second to the white man. Everything he had, she received it and owned it too. She whipped black folks' butts just like the rest of them.
Yes, she did.
That's right. And the ones that was whipping black folk, they started in order. First with the Indians whipping black folk, then the white master could whip them, then the white woman could whip them. Then what they did for the last, they would bring in the strongest built, ugliest, lovely black folk man they could find and let him beat up on black folk. In every plantation they had a black beater. They call him. He the one to whip the black folk. And so white folks say the way we psychologically brainwash these blacks is that rather than us white folk beating them, what we do is call everybody together, say, come out of the field, quit picking cotton and rice and tobacco, come here and watch your people beat a black person. And so we got used to black folk beating up on other blacks. And they took that and they stuck in their heads, and they still say my responsibility is to beat up on other blacks. That's why if I'm in the Congressional Black Caucus, I'm gonna beat up on black folk and make sure nothing goes to them. It goes to other groups, to the Hispanics. You watched all these Hispanics that put these blacks in the office out west. And those black elected officials that break their necks doing something for Hispanics or whites or poor whites and won't do a damn thing for black folk because they used to black folk in history beating the black folk.
Dr. Claud, people in the chat talking about how they're going to have to listen and re-listen to this masterclass. They're calling this a masterclass you're giving us today because you're dropping so many jewels, and I refuse to interrupt except to have folks donate. Again, the link is at the pinned in the chat at VickyDiller.tv. If you're watching us on another platform, it's pinned VickyDiller.tv at which one is it here? I just want to say it out loud for the purpose. It's the Harvest Institute, family. HarvestInstitute.org, HarvestInstitute.org, or you can go straight to the link because I pinned the link at the top at VickyDiller.tv. Let us know, Dr. Anderson, what your final point wants to be, because I don't want to keep eating up some of your time. You're going strong, and God willing, I was honored to have the first one with you. But if down the road, if you're up to and your family, everybody in your team agrees, we would love to have you back again. But I want you to let us know a few more things before you go. But to let you know, a book that I had referred the people to some years ago, and someone just mentioned it, read, They Were Her Property. A Black professor put a book together a few years ago that was called They Were Her Property. And she pulled information in one chapter of a book from a 10-year census in one particular area. And do you know, she uncovered that 40% of white women owned slaves in that particular area, and that some of the white women were going to court to fight with their spouse to ensure that they maintained them, and that reports came from some of the enslaved that it was the white women that were oftentimes the worst, and she was the one that set up the black woman to be sexually assaulted, not just by another enslaved black man, but the white woman also set it up for white men to sexually assault black women. I mean, all kinds of information is in that book. But anyway, just to confirm something that you just said about how the white woman has always benefited. That was a more recent book, in the past few years. That's called They Were Her Property. That confirms everything that you just said on that. So, Dr. Anderson, please let us know what else you want us to know.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll be glad to do that. And I'll try to make it very fast for you. And because right now, one of the things I never understood, and most black men don't understand, is why white women always join in with white women in some kind of a group based on women, something, with woman this, a woman that, woman that. White women, black women should never, never, never let white women or white men divide them from their own men. You see, the only protector for the black woman is the black man. Come on. That's what the white man was always scared of, that big burly black man. The white man is not scared of a black woman or her children. They are vulnerable once you get rid of the black man. So they want to feminize the black man if they can by making them all gay, have them all becoming transsexuals and everything else, and wearing pantyhoses and going around trying to be prostitutes.
Yes.
That's a form of weakness, is that the black man is so weak and he's so feminized, he can't protect the black woman. And but that's one point. Tell black women to stay out of those women groups and stay with your black man and fight together as a group. Divided, you're going to fail. Now, the second thing I want to make point right quick is that all those groups that I showed you on this sheet, all those groups right there on that sheet, over the right-hand side of that sheet, they get advantages over you. You can't win anymore. Thank you. You can't win now. Once you left that left-hand corner, with only two of them just whites and blacks, once you went over and that sheet is just full of all these other groups, you can't win anymore. You are doomed. They're going to throw you in a hole and throw dirt and flowers on you pretty soon. You might be at best have another 15 or 20 years, and you're dead as a group of people. Because here's what's happening, that every group coming in this country, they are getting points over you. Their points are weighed. Like, for instance, every group coming in here get a point. And that's why these immigrants are getting ahead. The immigrants come in here and go past you at 200 miles an hour. For instance, they're either classified as a religious group. If the Jews come in here, they're getting special credits and special support and benefits because they're religious. Arabs are getting special points and favors because of their Arab, their religion. And all the way down the line, they're getting points for that. And so you got to compete against the Arabs for this, or the Jews for this. And just like other groups, all these other groups are classified as ethnic groups. You're not an ethnic group, so you don't get any points for that. Okay. And they get a point for that. So now they got 2 or 3 points against your no point. The next thing is they got a language. They come in and say, we speak French, German, Spanish. We want Spanish stations. We want half the programs on your TV station to be in Spanish. You don't see now half the programs being dedicated to black folk.
Right.
You see, and they're doing that and getting away with it. They came in and they didn't have any television station, radio stations. Out of 12,000 radio stations, Hispanics didn't have any. We had about 130 something, 140. Now we're down to about 2 or 3 because Hispanics have television stations, they have radio stations. We have none. But television stations are 5,000 television stations. And out of those 5, blacks might have 1. Hispanics got 2 or 3, Telemundo and television, all that stuff. They get special favors for their religion. They also get it for their culture. They come in, they can build restaurants any place, Hispanic restaurants, Mexican restaurants, Cuban restaurants. And they get credit for it, and everybody go to their business. Nobody comes to your business because you don't have any culture. They stripped it. Whites got your culture. Whites got your culture. They took everything out of your culture. They take your dress from your young people. They take your language, slang, and use it for advertising, promotions. They take your clothing and promote it. They take all your athletes, and whites own the baseball teams, the football teams, the basketball team. Even though you're the dominant population on there, they take everything from you. They take your music from you, and they change it from blues, rhythm and blues to rock and roll, and become multimillionaires. While you got nothing, and all your black singers are forced to leave and retire because now nobody pushes rhythm and blues. They push in rock and roll and pretend it's black music. And I can go on and on, but they get 4 or 5 advantages over you by language, culture, religion, and ethnicity, and also being qualified as a minority. They're coming as a minority, that we're equal to blacks. We're a minority just like black folk. They're not a damn minority, just came in. So you all got to stand up fighting. I'm too old to fight, but I love you, and I'm getting off because I know you're tired of me now.
No.
Yes, you are.
I'm respecting your time. I'm respecting you, Dr. Anderson. No, sir. I'm trying to make sure I follow the orders of your team to take care of you.
No, I say I want y'all to do it right, and you can do it. And right now, as I said before, you all are the most powerful people in the universe. In the universe, in the heavens, and the universe on the earth. You're the most powerful people on the earth, and yet you're the weakest at the same time because you don't play as a team. You never play as a team. You always play as individuals. See all these football players, basketball players, and they all relate to a ball. They love balls, football, basketball, tennis ball, golf ball, bowling balls. They just love hanging on the street and playing with themselves and all that. They'd do anything to play with about balls and singing and dancing, pretend they're having a good time. They don't organize around their own commonality, which is their own skin color and their own people.
Yes.
And so we lose, and that always hurt me about why don't they stick together? As I give speeches around the world in throughout the Caribbean, down into Latin America and Venezuela, Colombia. Then I go to England to go for the Royal Company, and I speak in Germany, France, England, all those places. And guess what I'm always talking about? Nothing but Black folk. I don't get into any other subject but showing you how Black folk have been mistreated and maltreated, and why they're exceptional people. They must be put into a special category. And here the Biden and the Harris administration went now and got about $200 or $300 billion that he should have been giving Black folk, correcting the things that Black folk got put into during slavery.
Yes.
The first thing they should have done, same thing Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King, rather than talking about social integration, he should have said, no, let's change and alter all those things that they put on Black folks during slavery. Let's redistribute the wealth, the money, the land. Where's the land for Black folk? Yes. And now, right, you should be demanding land right now from the state level and from the federal government. You demand so many acres out west, demand so many acres in Mississippi, Alabama. So we want at least 200 acres of land to be divided up with Blacks in this state. We want 200 or 300 up here in the north. We want them in Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota, where there's only a couple of thousand people out there. We want half of the damn state. You all started raising hell and stop trying to be so nice and thinking that people are coming to this country to get along with you. All those immigrants are coming here to eat your lunch. They're coming here to compete with you. That's why you're going down. You're going down, you're going to be buried soon because you don't own and control anything of value. Everything is owned from New York to San Diego, owned by whites or Asians or Arabs. You own nothing, zero, zilch, no airplanes, no boats, no ships, you own no land or nothing. And I ask myself, how can they be so darn happy and don't own a darn thing?
Wow.
They're just always singing and marching and dancing. And every time something wrong happens to them, one of the first thing they want to do is let's have a march. White folks think you're a darn joke talking about marching. And you signal weakness. When you march, you're signifying weakness, which means you're after the fact. They've already beaten you or taken you, whatever it is, or shot 3 or 4 more of you, and you're marching just out of frustration. You start saying, no, we're playing an eye for an eye, like Dr. Anderson said, with the senator, with getting the judges. An eye for an eye and a tooth for. If you kill us, we're gonna start doing the same thing that y'all do to us.
Wow. Y'all y'all listen to our commander in Vanguard, the great Dr. Claud Anderson. Dr. Claud, I remember reading an article sometime back, the last part you were talking about foreigners and stuff. And I was reading this piece and I found one of the articles. This is from 2021, right? April 2021. Guess what the headline says? This is confirming what you said. Foreign buyers are moving in on U.S. real estate.
That's right. And see, they buy it by 1,000 of acres at a time.
Dr. Claud.
And see,
yes, go ahead.
Blacks just trying to buy a little house here in a little lot right here in the urban cities. These whites are going to buy up, and all these foreigners are coming in here to put up factories in the rural areas where they got large tracts of land. They're buying thousands of acres at one time. But you know why? Because on that land are the gold, the silver, the land, the animals, the food, the water, everything. You got water shortages coming. You got food shortages coming. How much land is owned by Blacks? Less than 1/2 or 1%. That's all you own. How many in the Black neighborhoods? You don't even have a community in the neighborhood. Where are your hotels? You only have about 2 or 3 hotels. Right. And 45% of all the hotels in the United States are owned and controlled by Chinese or Asians. You don't own anything. Where are your doctor's offices? Where are your hospitals? You got 2 hospitals in the United States for Black folk. One in Washington D.C. and one in downtown in New York, in Harlem. You don't even, if you go to get sick, you haven't got any place to go to white hotels, white hospitals. You don't. Where are your grocery stores? You own nothing. And I'm sick and tired of Blacks owning nothing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm telling you, we have our marching orders, don't we, family? We have our marching orders, and we're going to get started on this. And Dr. Claud, as we get ready to end, let me, because like I said, I want to respect you, your health, your team. I like to follow instructions. I'm not going to play with Miss Anderson. She don't play about her husband, her man, and your team. And I want you to stay strong. But what are your thoughts about right now with where we are, everything that you just said? Everybody's in here that's listening are saying that they're going to get on it. What do you think that there needs to be when you were saying earlier about raising hell, do you think it needs to be a multi-pronged approach where we keep pushing, of course, the reparations demands, the judiciary demands at the same time about some of the illegalities of the Supreme Court and other such things, and then at the same time making the demands, for land and getting involved in these other things? What are your thoughts on just bombarding the system, just like unleashing a political salvo, a political and economic salvo on the United States with, these multiple demands all at the same time? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think that you should need organized, come together as a team and get the biggest power, because wealth and power follows the numbers. Remember this. Wealth and power follows the numbers. You want the biggest, strongest group you can get to come together and then organize and say, now, the first thing we're going to do is that in terms of reparations, we're going to demand that all those blacks right now holding public positions at any level of government, that they resign immediately and get their butts out of government. Because right now, 90% of them in government talking about, if we give black folk reparation, we got to give it to whites. Whites been getting reparation ever since 1789 with the Constitution. That was the first affirmative action plan, as I told you. It was strictly for whites. They've been getting affirmative action plans with benefits ever since 1789. So you tell all those blacks that are holding office, you can start with Biden, you can start with Harris, and say what you need to do is draft a letter right now saying I officially resign because I've never been committed to doing anything for black folk.
Wow.
There's no connection between black people having people in office that they voted for and getting benefits. They never touch. Never in the history of this nation has an administration ever come out and said, this is what we're doing strictly for something like all those 18 or 20 million slaves in this country that never got the time of day, food, water, or even had the lives are taken away from them. We're fighting for them. Okay?
Yes, sir.
You tell every one of these jackies that are now sitting up in a public office, holding office, no, you won't speak for us, get out.
Get out.
If you want to speak for everybody else, fine. Go see the other groups, they don't let their groups talk about everything. Hispanics speak strictly for Hispanics.
Come on.
Jews speak for Jews. Arabs speak for Arabs. You start telling your people, if you run for, I don't give a damn if you run for a school board. You've been on that school board, you better start looking out for some of these black kids. Are we coming to get you? And the second thing is that you demand that in every black community, once you build those schools, they put up special schools just for blacks. No more social integration. Social integration weakened you. They divided you and conquered you. You've been divided and conquered. And now we got to come back together and say you took our hotels, our businesses, our neighborhoods, all our sports. You took everything and stripped us. And Martin Luther King was wrong. And in terms of the Supreme Court, that showed up in the Supreme Court. And my final commitment right here. Listen to this now. This is it. Show you that when they voted for what would they call? You heard about the 1954 desegregation bill.
Okay.
Law. Okay, so let's go to integration. Now listen to this. You tell me if this makes any sense. And that's why I was over education for the state of Florida.
Okay.
They said, what we're gonna do? And I asked them in Florida, what does social integration mean to you? Since Martin Luther King is pushing it and all the civil rights leaders. They said, well, it means that in the schools, we're gonna close down 75% of all the black schools. Close them down, shut them down. We're gonna shut them down. Then two, we're gonna take and put about 10 or 15% of all the rest of the kids into special education classes, and the rest of them we're gonna discharge them out of the system of either being violent or socially maladjusted or fighting at school or delinquents or not skipping school and stuff like that. So I found out, I wrote 2 proposals on that. They say stop discharging black kids. Just kick a black kid out of school because he's been skipping school. How in the hell does that help a black kid and
That's
put him out
right.
of school, and you put him out of school because he skipped school. You should be doing just the opposite. You should be trying to figure out how to get him into school. And then here comes a stupid statement. They said, well, Dr. Anderson, you got to understand why we like integration. I said, why? I said, because we found out from a study that we call the doll study. You remember that doll study between the colored dolls and the white dolls? And you listen to this and watch, let this rattle around in your head a second. See if this makes any sense. If this makes any sense to you, you follow me out to an institution. How saying, well, you know what? If we found it inherently impossible for a black child to learn unless they're sitting next to a white child. Now you tell me what does that mean? Black people are so disadvantaged, crippled in the mind, that if they're not sitting somewhere close to a white child with a tube running from that white child over to him, he can't learn a damn thing. Now does that make any sense? That's social integration. Saying that if we don't hook them up, put a tube between a black child and a white child, he can't learn. And this other stuff with Martin was saying, well, you know, they give us the right to vote, we can rule the world. You've been had the right to vote since 1863. I just told you that in 1865 they gave you the right to vote. You're the only people ever had a right to vote. How you gonna tell black folk they had the right to vote? They could rule the world. They can't rule right now. Getting up and down the damn sidewalk.
Facts, Dr. Anderson. Facts.
But I know y'all tired. But I'm gonna let you go. But I love you all, and tell your audience that I'm sorry if I abuse and sort of masturbated their intelligence by just reciting all these things to them they need to know. But that should be their agenda. No more social integration. We want separate black best school. We want the best schools in every city be put back into the black neighborhood with a curriculum that is strictly designed to help black kids. Black kids come to school with different motives, emotional, and problems than white kids. You cannot use the same books in the same school with white and black kids. Their problems are different from ours. Yes. That's why I wrote my books. You tell all your audience, I wrote my books to be strictly and solely for black kids. They start with the first book called Black Labor, White Wealth. That is your problem. You don't own and control a damn thing. So you start with that book and you go from that book to the Powernomics. Then you read those two dirty little secrets books saying why you're special people. Then you read the Black History Reader that says here's the problem, and there's questions and the answers to them. When y'all read those, y'all will be some powerful people. And remember right now, blackness is power. Everything on this, everything in the heaven, like the black hole. Black hole is 200 times more powerful than the sun. The black hole can suck the sun in and destroy it. The black holes in the space are the most powerful thing you can get. The black bird, I'm a pilot, I'll tell you as a pilot. And I was a pilot in the Marine Corps. But you see, the black bird, that black bird can fly so fast it makes your blood boil. But they can't use it the way they want to because it was getting so hot that the plane would just almost disintegrate from the heat. And then they found out the only way you can stop it is to paint it black. Why would they paint it black? And they didn't get bothered anymore because blackness is the strongest color in the color spectrum. There's nothing in the color spectrum. You got 8 colors that the blackness will beat up any color in the color spectrum. Blackness will beat the hell out of pink, yellow, green, brown, any color you name. Black will run over it and knock it out.
Come on.
Okay, y'all say don't you ever bow your head for being black. You say I'm black. And I don't get into this proud in this business, but I'm black and I'm the most powerful thing in this universe. When you get to the earth, the black vegetables are the most powerful black and the most healthful blacks on the earth.
Come on.
The black fruits, black plums, whatever it is, the black foods are the most powerful, healthiest food on the earth. Okay, what is on there? And we got a cloth on the earth called the black cloth. That black cloth is so powerful right now we got on the earth. It can suck light into it and destroy it. Did you know that?
No, sir.
You all are this power, but you all been taught to run away from your power, to run away from your blackness. And you said I tell me y'all are black. With Dr. Anderson, he just stepped on my toe. He's a black MF and all this kind of stuff. I said, well, y'all quit beating up on each other.
Come on.
And you don't have to be making love to each other every 20 minutes. Just care about each other. I love all of you. And I'm gonna quit now. I know you're tired of me. So I love you, baby.
Please stop saying that. We are honored to have you. And Dr. Anderson, the audience is actually giving money so they can tell you that they like the tough love, and they said, "Don't apologize for cussing."
Well, tell the biggest thing and do for help is now we got all these books that I wrote when I left the government with all the presidents and governors. In my experience in the Marine Corps, I was a safety and survival engineer. My responsibility was teaching my pilots how to survive when the plane went down.
Wow.
If they crashed in enemy territory or in a desert or in snow-covered northlands, how they kept warm and created food. That was my responsibility to teach them how to survive. Well, we had schools over in Hawaii. I had over 7,000 soldiers that were in prisoner of war camps in North Korea and in China that had been captured during the combat and the fighting over in Korea. They had been picked up and put in camps. And after 3 years in the camp, almost 4,000 of them died for the lack of understanding what brainwashing was. So we had to deprogram and debrainwash them in Hawaii. That was one of my responsibilities, to deprogram black soldiers that were in camps, in prison camps, that were dying, just given what we call give up-itis or surrender-itis. They lost respect for themselves and their people and just pull the blanks over here like they just died. I'm telling y'all, quit pulling the damn heads over your eyes and dying.
Come on.
Be something. Go buy those darn books and tell the schools you get those books in those black schools. So I wrote them to show those black kids what the problems were and how to get out of it. And right now, all the reading books committees are controlled by whites in every school, in every city, in every state. The state schools are controlled for reading materials by whites. Y'all let that go down, rather reading about Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, instead of saying Anderson wrote these books after all his years in government all around the world, fighting for us, show us how to survive, and we don't even buy the darn books.
Well, that's changing. We got the link up there, powernomics.com, powernomics.com. Family, that's where you get your books. The other website is already pinned at the top as well here at VickyDiller.tv for harvestinstitute.org, harvestinstitute.org, where you can support and get involved in this think tank family. He has given us our marching orders, all of the specific things that you would have for the blueprint. The map to Black economics and Black power is written in the books. All of these jewels that everybody is tripping about now that's in the chat, he's put it in the books. So if you want to go to powernomics.com, the link is here. And also pinned is the link for harvestinstitute.org, family. We so honor you. We thank you so much. And again, everybody keeps saying, they said, don't you dare apologize. They said, we love you and we need the tough love. They tell me we need the tough love, Dr. Anderson. And we thank you. And we thank you. We're going to continue to support. We're going to continue to give. And most importantly, family, is us to start to put these things into action. He's giving us some specifics to do right now. So listen, re-listen, have some folks over, and let's get to work. Okay, family? All of you that gave here in the super chat, your gifts are blessed 1,000-fold. Thank you so much. But the main reason I'm here right now is for us to get to work on this high wisdom that our brother has given us and laid out for us. Buy the books, by the dozens, by the hundreds. Powernomics.com. Make sure you get involved at harvestinstitute.org. Please, Dr. Anderson, send our love to your wife, to your family, and most importantly, thank you. We bow to you. And I'm going to talk offline. I'm not going to push it, but I wouldn't mind getting another interview later.
You're good, girl. Well, you're good. You just tell them that the books, they can get all 5 of those books for, I think it's for about $100. Get all 5 of those books for $100. It's called a library pack, which in every home you got to have 5 books on the shelf that'll tell them everything they need to know about race, and which none of these Black people in school ever teach their kids any of the things you find. That's why they call dirty little secrets in those other 2 books, things that they never hear and whites will never teach you. You tell them to get that library pack for $100, and they can and their kids will know everything they need to know. And plus that'll put a little bit of a tail to my good friend, used to like Malcolm X, because Malcolm X says, I'll tell you about him. He says that they're good people, but the best way, if you want to keep a secret, Dr. Anderson, just put it in a book. A black person will never find it. And so please help me prove that Malcolm was wrong, okay?
Yes,
So
yes.
get those books and read
We're
them.
gonna get that library pack today. And somebody just said we have no excuse, family. Somebody just said that we have no excuse. Powernomics.com, harvestinstitute.org. We're on it, Dr. Anderson. Everybody, we're on it. Let he and his family, his team, flood them again. Share this. We thank you so much for being with us today. We bow to you, your family, your wife, and we cannot wait to share this information and get involved further. Thank you so much. We love you.
We love you. I love you all, and I love your students. I just love to see Black folk learn something and just stand up and just say I'm something special. And remember, always declare yourself to be exceptional people. You are the only people in this country that were treated different from all the other groups coming here. On that sheet, all of them got benefits. They ran across the Rio Grande last night, or got brought in by all these different planes from Europe, from Spain on ships. We are the only people that was drugged and been mistreated, castrated, lynched, and exploited and misused for 465 years. You tell them we ain't taking no more crap.
Come on.
And you upset and tell them I'm trying to prove that Malcolm was wrong, that my people can buy and they can read. I love them. Okay.
And we love you too. And when you said this really quick, when you said this about your role with teaching the pilots how to survive in the enemy's camp, that's exactly what you're doing intellectually and economically with us, with these books and this information. That's a powerful analogy to a actual position and job that you had in the military as a pilot. But this is exactly what you're doing with us, and we thank you so much. We're gonna get our survival packs and get to work.
And I'm gonna look on the sheet one day when I go over to the printing company and see how many y'all bought. I'm gonna get on that. I'm gonna get on that, Vicky. Vicky, I said I'm gonna see how many people bought the library pack from Vicky's audience. Okay.
Yes, sir. Y'all, let's make it proud. Y'all, let's flood it.
Yeah. And when they read like the history book with the questions being answered, they'll learn how to stand up for themselves and fight back and say, no, I'm not going to turn no other cheeks. If I turn any cheeks, it's going to be yours. I love you. Okay. Bye now.
We love you too, Dr. Anderson.
Okay.
We're going to end on that note. Love you. Love you, family.
I love you, girl. Okay.